So hi everybody, this is Time to Talk. I am Dr. Claire from Cognitive Sports Therapy, and I am really pleased to introduce Matt tonight. We kind of moved it to tonight because Matt's had a really busy day on the ward, and yeah, I'm just really pleased because he's tired and he wanted to go to bed,
Ah,
and he's giving us some time tonight. But I think I said in the little introduction about tonight about you, Matt, and maybe I've got it wrong, but we met at the moving medicine kind of working group,
mhm.
and I have been really inspired by what you do. I wonder, can you share a little bit about kind of, because like your background was in fitness first and then into mental health, am I right?
No, the opposite, other way
The
around.
other way around. Okay.
So basically, I work on a male psychiatric intensive care unit, 14-bedded male ward. And I came into the environment as a student nurse, mental health nurse in 2018.
Okay.
Prior to that, I've been part of a team in Camden setting up an adolescent youth service called The Hive. So for a few years, which is basically, it started off as a pilot, essentially a youth club that anyone 16 to 24 in Camden could come to. But those of us who ran it also held a caseload of, I suppose, adolescents all throughout the borough who would see really flexibly, really informally, almost giving them sort of flexible sort of mentorship, but just sort of, so they had someone in their network who, we could work together, essentially just around the whole well-being. Often you're getting into employment, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did that for a few years and could really see that there was so much unmet need. And one, really enjoyed the process of being part of setting something up. It was really successful, went from being a pilot to now fully funded, and really got that bug to, set more things up, and could see there was so much need, but didn't have a mental health qualification at that time. So basically was told the quickest way for me to get one was to do my mental health nursing postgrad, which I did at King's College London. And I was quite fortunate that I received, I was one of a few people to get basically a bursary to train as a salary to train as a mental health nurse by the trust where I still am. And I knew that at King's College London, they had a entrepreneurship institute where they have an accelerator program, essentially where they support 20 startups every year and give them really awesome support, mentorship, access to funding. It's like an accelerator program.
Yeah.
I suppose a good example of accelerator is Airbnb went onto an accelerator called the Y Combinator when they started out, and So I knew that they had this accelerator program, and that took on 20 ventures every year. And I thought, well, I'll train as a mental health nurse at King's, and if I can come up with a half decent idea, I can get onto this accelerator program and be one of the 20 ventures that they help. So that was basically my starting point. Came into the hospital. My first placement was on the ward where I still am. And I remember when I was being shown around the hospital, I was really surprised that they basically had, on all the wards, there were small little gym spaces where patients could potentially work out. I think I was quite.
Didn't, did they? They never. They always used to. And back in my day, they used to stick stuff in there, and because nobody ever actually went to the gym space. But maybe it has improved a bit. But
yeah, I mean, they certainly they could have been used more. I mean, basically the way that it worked, which I think I hear similar stories everywhere, was we had a essentially like an off-ward fitness instructor who would come in maybe once a week. And it wasn't really enough to improve outcomes. There wasn't I suppose much consistency, or so it seemed like we could maybe use the spaces a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I straight was. I thought, okay, that's what going to be my idea. I'm going to train and get patients in the gym myself. And I suppose also because I was a student nurse, like none of the stuff on the ward none of the things that was going on were reliant on me being there. You're supernumerary, really. You're there to learn, be part of the team. So essentially what happened was I trained so I could open the gyms myself. And then when I was a student nurse, I would start taking patients into the gym. But also actually on the ward, we've got a really great garden space where, because it was the summer of the heat wave. It was like, remember there was a heat wave a few years ago.
Yeah.
2018, I think. So we'd get patients getting into the garden. And what quickly worked out was that actually, I suppose, particularly inpatient units, it's a perfect space to create healthy habits, because we've got a group of patients who are there, particularly on the PQ. So it's, it's a secure ward where patients are there for often 4-6 weeks, but with a lot of patients, significantly longer, 2-3 months. So they're not going anywhere, really bored, looking for things to do, looking for ways to looking for ways to make themselves feel better. Often, terrible sleep patterns, taking medications which are associated with really significant weight gain from the initial onset. And also being on the PQs, we were giving patients the highest doses medications as well. So what we found is essentially, as soon as you could get patients who in the community may never think about turning up to something, exercising 2, 3, 4 times a day because they have nothing else to do. And you'd start by doing it in small dose, small sessions. Can you do 10 press ups, then 15 press ups, and then you bring. I'd always bring my sound system in. You have good speakers. They choose the music. It's very it's very relaxed, very I suppose low barriers to entry. But you'd quickly actually then find patients really started improving and really enjoying that feeling of improving at such a difficult time of their lives. And obviously you've got all the really robust evidence about how exercise can immediately improve your mood, basically, which again is a really valuable thing to have. And I remember actually, even at that time, right at the start, we had one patient who I think lost about 8 kilograms when he was with us, went from 116 to 108 kilograms. And then, it was interesting because the reason he started to lose weight was, I suppose, one, obviously because he was training, several times in a day, but also he then started to think, what am I eating? So then we started to think, about, the nutrition. So, we quickly began to get really good outcomes. I applied to that King's 20 program, the story about the locked gyms in the hospital that could have been used more, and using exercise was quite an easy one to tell. So I set up Live More, which was, the company that allowed me to actually win a place in the King's 20. And that, then enabled me to basically win different pots, grant funding, which has allowed us to really improve the gym space, get much better equipment in there. Get nurses to come in, then transform the environment. And so that was it was really fun.
And do you see it rolling out into other hospitals? Have people been listening to you and kind of mimicking it, or is that something that Live More can do? Is it something that can be taken elsewhere? Because
100%,
that's amazing, wouldn't it?
100%. I mean, what we found is that, so basically what we've done subsequently is I finished training as a student. I qualified as a nurse. Also, I got my fitness qualifications, and essentially said, oh no, I'd love to stay here, but as long as we keep doing what we're doing. And so my role was just to really build on what we were doing, rather than going back to what we were doing before, where it was just something that happened on the side or someone coming in once a week. We completely shifted it to actually this is something that we do throughout the day. So exercise is something that. So today, for example, we had the garden open throughout the day. It starts with patient. We'll just walk around the garden, do laps of it. It's quite big. Patients will do jogs. There's music on all day. If we want to take someone into a gym for a one-to-one session, we'll do it. And actually, what we find in the one-to-one sessions in the gym is that they're actually really valuable clinical spaces, because patients will tell you things about their lives, about what they've done, what they want to do, are often much more open than they would be in a ward round, because they don't feel they're being assessed. And so we've completely shifted what we were doing in terms of this is actually what we offer throughout the week. And actually, we've also essentially adopted the same approach to thinking about their nutrition. How can we use this space when they're here for several months to just embed feasible, affordable, healthier cooking skills, because we've got a kitchen on the ward that they can essentially learn to cook. And what we did yesterday, for example, so once a week we get one of the patients to cook for the whole ward, basically. And so yesterday, we had a patient cook, just a spaghetti dish with tomatoes, garlic, onions, chili. We ate it outside in the garden, shared it together, and the cost per head was something like 65p. So and it's just actually this sort of super thinking about just really affordable, feasible stuff. And even if you look at the the evidence base around nutrition and the Smiles trial from Australia in 2017, there's some quite simple stuff you can take from it. Basically, more whole grains, more veg, more fiber, more fruit. So what we'll do on the ward is we'll because in inpatient settings there's a huge and very complicated discussion around takeaway food, because again it's got ward patients, and that's one of the few things they can do, and you get the dopamine hit of ordering a pizza and the excitement around it.
Yeah.
But actually, we've been really encouraging patients to we bought a toasty maker, and we'll just get them to do whole grain toasties and whole grain wraps for a fraction of the cost of a takeaway pizza, and significantly less calories and better health outcomes associated with it. And essentially, since we've been doing this, I suppose, over the past 18 months, we've run several quality improvement projects, which really have illustrated that, the outcomes have been really, really positive. We've had, the exercise nutrition is one of many change ideas. We've got an awesome team who really put loads of different factors, and that's actually having such a good team come together has been a huge part of it. But what we found is that, we've had a 45% reduction in violence, in a violence reduction quality improvement we've done on the board. And this year, what we found is we found that I think it's a 39% reduction in weight gain. So the amount of weight that your patients are putting on the ward is really coming down. And I suppose going back to your question, which is, can this stuff be rolled out? A lot of the principles are so simple, and actually social media has just is a brilliant new tool.
Can't you?
Twitter, where you can essentially tell a short story with about 4 or 5 bullet points that any ward can adopt. And I actually think it's a really, really great way to learn and scale improvements in a way that people actually will adopt, because
well, it just needs one person to see that, doesn't it? One person sees it and goes, "Oh, we could do that where we work." You can kind of see it at some of these kind of conferences and things that we keep bumping into. I was like, oh, if you even took one of those ideas, the difference would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I took a photo of the pasta, the spaghetti that we cooked yesterday, whacked it up this morning, and it's already had 200 people liking it. But also, if you look at the comments, different people going, "Oh, why don't we do this?" I think and I think actually social media is such a great tool to scale improvements, because you can, the whole world can see it, and I think it's about telling a short story really in a way that other places can understand and adopt. Because when you think about research is it's it's tricky and time consuming to read. Big research papers.
There's so much of it as well.
There's so much of it.
Yeah.
And I think we live in a sort of 140 character society now, when people are like to consume information pretty quickly. So I think there is a huge opportunity just in using Twitter and things like that to I suppose share and scale improvements pretty quickly
And make changes and things, isn't it? I mean, I'm really aware of time, because I said this would only be 10-15 minutes and you were going to go to bed. But I also wanted, can we do this really quickly and give it justice? But I see you as someone who's in there kind of working with men with severe mental illnesses, and I often find myself feeling that men are left out a little bit when it comes to mental health, because women are always told, we struggle more with anxiety, we struggle more with depression, but yet it's our men who commit suicide, and men who struggle more with addictions. And I guess, if I think about the people who sometimes watch these videos, is there anything that you can share from your personal experience that would maybe help or support men who are struggling at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that spring to mind. So actually, in terms of what I've seen over the past few years, working on Nile ward, which is the intensive care unit where I work. One of the coolest things I've seen, actually, it's a project that I'm part of, is a football team in the community called Minds United, which was set up by a former patient in a hospital. I think I don't know when he was, maybe a patient about 6 years ago, but essentially, really good footballer. And he set up a football team, called Minds United, where for people with men and women with any sort of lived experience of mental health problems or substance misuse. But it's been really, really successful for lots of reasons. But what we've done on our ward is that we've taken lots of our men, whilst they're still on the ward, we've introduced them to the club, taken them down.
Okay.
So much so that we actually, our ward, we've got our own team. We play in a mental health league once a month, and you're playing a tournament. But what we've found is that we actually won a tournament a few weeks ago, and pretty much all of our team was men who had basically been on our ward in 2018 when I was there as a student, and had really been sort of, lots of them had kept coming back to the hospital, basically kept relapsing, coming back.
Okay.
And since we introduced them to this football team, it's completely stopped. They're not coming back anymore. Basically, they're keeping healthy, and that's because they have social contact in the community. They've got some positive self-identity. They've got somewhere to go. They play regularly throughout the week. They've got, I suppose,
it's that peer support, isn't it? It's other people that kind of get you and understand where you've been to, must make a difference as well.
Absolutely. So the people, we're just far less isolated. And I suppose what's really interesting is they have their own. It's like a clubhouse in the community where they have basically got a safe space to be every evening, and they eat together, they cook together, and I suppose it's just it reinforces that. So the fundamentals of, I think, mental health are about having that sort of connection. That
it comes up every time, doesn't it?
That will, I suppose, I don't know, something to do, something
but with other people, isn't it? It's that community kind of, as you say, and connection thing that's making the difference. It's a bit like, I follow the sort of run talk run kind of scene, and I think it's another kind of um a community based service, I guess, that's there for kind of peer support and, getting out running with other people, how helpful that is. And I follow sort of Phoenix Gym kind of thing, scenario that they have over in the US, is a kind of a similar kind of thing where you've kind of got that peer support and somewhere to go and somewhere where you belong and somewhere where people get you. But it's all around movement and being healthy, I guess, which, is the thing that's life-changing. I mean, it's life-changing for people, isn't it? So
Yeah.
um
No, absolutely. And I think, I mean, it's a couple of things. And one of the reasons that it's so successful is because with a lot of things, it's the fact that it was set up by someone who the patients can see themselves in, someone they can relate to. Is the person delivering the message is the right person who connects and has deep links in the community. But also, particularly with men, and this I think links to when men generally don't like to talk about their feelings or their emotions, or for that to be the sole purpose of any exchange or interaction. So like what seems to be often far more effective is doing an activity alongside someone, whether it be music or football or running, and then using that sort of relationship and engagement to then be able to talk about things and how their life's going. So it's almost hooking it to something that unites people. And I suppose it's what we see in the gyms, or in the garden, on our ward, is that actually it's when we're doing something. I don't know, doing a workout or gardening or going for a walk or jogging, that you have really meaningful conversations and really find out about people. And there's something I was going to say, but
don't worry. I think that's, I think that's the message, isn't it, a little bit? And I'm sure, like, me, if there's anybody that is struggling, you don't mind being contacted, I don't mind being contacted, please do sort of message us. And sometimes it's just having somebody have a wee bit of a think with you about what is local to you, because I guess not everybody's going to necessarily be in London or be, it's just having somebody who maybe is able to kind of signpost and think about places that you could go to that are a supportive community for you. So I guess the message is about not being on your own and feeling like you've got people around you, and that being one of the most protective things we can do.
Yeah, and I suppose in two things. I mean, one would be again, what things like this football team and like Manchester United, why they're one of the reasons they're so work so well is that I think often when we're confronted with a problem or we feel a certain way, you can feel like super isolated. When in reality, there's so many people around feeling exactly the same way. And what things like this football team do is they bring people together, and you realize actually there's 10 people in this room who are have felt this way, and it's that shared journey and feeling suddenly far less isolated in the world, which again is I think we can get lost, particularly in lockdown. We can lose a bit of perspective when we're cooped apart, inside or in our rooms, and I think our thoughts can spiral. And I think there is something very, very healthy about leaving that environment, getting outside, going for a run, going to meeting other people to sort of regain that sort of perspective. And we see it on our ward, the difference we have when we keep the garden open and get people out. Because when you're in an inpatient unit and you've got a nursing station and people banging on it, inside, it's very claustrophobic, and you're reminded how unwell you are the whole time. But actually, go out into the garden, you can sort of forget where you are a bit, and you regain that perspective.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other thing I would advocate for people is if there doesn't seem to be something in your area that's for you, set something up.
Yeah.
Go and do it. And I'm sure that if you've got you won't be the only person to have had that thought, or I'm sure there'll be if you identify an unmet need, go and fill it, and just go for it.
Yeah, really good advice. I'm going to let you go to bed, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to message me, and I can kind of hand them over to Matt. But thank you for what you do, because I think it is inspirational and it is life-changing for people. And yeah, for anyone else out there, if you've got an idea, just go for it, because that's what Matt has done, and it's working. So,
and I suppose the other thing would be, if you do working and doing sort of lifestyle stuff, based stuff, exercise within inpatient units is like a really fun job. I enjoy coming into work every day a lot. So if you think that could be for you, go for it, and find your local hospitals, and find a way to get in there. Everyone wins. It's a great job, and we need more people, I think, doing that role, and the right people doing that role. So yeah, go for it, I'd say.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Matt.
No worries. Good to see you.
Bye. Bye.